Well, I'm here with Warren Skeel, writer and director of The Man in the White Van. I really love this movie a lot. It's kind of creepy and has that phone book or Clove Hitch Killer vibe to it. What I guess just get started with what got you started on this project.
It was really first and foremost just hearing the firsthand account of the personal story from the woman who went through this experience back in the 70s. I came up from a love of thrillers and suspense films, loved Hitchcock and Kubrick and early Spielberg like Jaws and Duel, and this story just really captivated me from the standpoint of it really coming from the victim's point of view and the survivor. And I just thought, well, that's really different because most, stories that involve a serial killer are really about the MO of the serial killer or really about, a detective or a journalist tracking down their guy, to kind of unsolve a mystery. And to me, it was really interesting to delve into the underpinnings of that rural Florida sleepy town, um, the evil that sort of lurked around where she lived and sort of the disbelief of the family that something as horrible as what ultimately unfolded with this particular predator, that there was just a disbelief about that being able to enter their world, that was sort of something that only happened in the big cities like New York and Chicago, and that there was this sense of false security, and like a deep family pride that in their home, and that they were kind of impenetrable, I guess, to those sort of forces.
Is that why? Because I saw it was based on a true story, but it's always hard to tell when watching a movie. It's like it's based on a true story, and that there are serial killers that have happened, or is this like actual biopic? And it like what kind of where does this kind of fall within that?
Yeah, so this is based on a true story. Annie Williams, our main character in the film, is based 80% on the dynamics of this one particular survivor, her family dynamic, the dynamic with her sister, her younger brother, and all the interactions that she had in being followed, stalked, and hunted by this predator in a white van. And then sort of the ending of the story is taken from another victim who was falsely imprisoned and escaped him. So we've basically taken those two victim stories and married them into one fictional account of Annie Williams in our film.
Yeah. Well, so that's not quite how this one ends with the person that was falsely in prison, but that seems like an interesting story in its own right.
Yeah, well, I mean, falsely imprisoned, all that means is captured, taken and captured, and that's what happened. Obviously, the I don't think it's really any secret when you're going to watch a film like this and you set up, you know, um, the young girl and you set up the predator, like it's all going to build to a major, confrontation and interaction, and that's how we sort of designed the film to build up into a thrilling climax with the capture of Annie, and how she sort of survives and escapes that is kind of inspirational. I think that was another piece to what made it interesting to me.
Yeah. And I see that I have a co-writer on this, Sharon Cobb. What was the
Oh
writing
yes.
process like between the two of you, or did like one of you write the script and the other one polish it, or like what was the
No, I
was
mean
it?
it was yeah, it was very sorry to cut you off. It was very
Oh, no worries.
collaborative from the beginning. Sharon and I think we make a really good team. We sort of talk through the broad strokes of what our cornerstone is and telling the story, and the point of view that we're, for this, it was really about being authentic to this story and to her point of view and the dynamics within the family that sort of set the stage for the horror to come. And so we really just kind of let that be our guiding light, and outline together, and then we'll kind of break off different parts of the script to write initially, and then we kind of trade pages, so to speak, and just kind of work back and forth until we feel like, all right, now we're kind of an undeniable state of this works or doesn't work. And, when we feel like we got to a good place, then we usually turn it over to a few close collaborators and kind of get their initial feedback, and then we incorporate that and move on to a focus group eventually, and the producers. And I mean, there's a long list of people that get involved in, giving the okays on a script before it moves forward. And I'm here for it. I think the process of maintaining what the vision is really important, and being able to, as a director, being able to take the writing over into the making of the film. It's great to be able to have to have that say in terms of bringing that vision forward. But I think having outside voices, being able to give you perspective on a script and what's working or not working, is really pivotal in terms of ultimately making sure you're delivering on what you're intending to.
Yeah. And also, I'll leave this to you of how much you want to say or how much you don't. But
Okay.
the made a stylistic choice, we'll say, on the serial killer. Where did that come from, and what was kind of your thoughts behind that?
I missed the first part of that. What was the
Oh,
very first?
a stylistic choice on how you presented the killer, we'll
Oh,
say.
yeah. So, I mean, really, we were looking at this whole story from the point of view of our character Annie Williams, and we really wanted the audience to be deeply rooted with her and her experience. So, outside of the cutaway scenes where we're in the serial killer, the predator's storyline, which is its own storyline that gets intersected into Annie's chronological storyline until they meet on Halloween night, 1975. um, we really just wanted to see everything in her timeline from her point of view. So if she doesn't see his face, then the audience wouldn't see his face. If she just saw and interacted with the van, which is really what she did for most of her experiences, were just being confronted by this van that was following and stalking her like a great white shark, like a Jaws. Um, and that was really the kind of how we really want to perceive her experience, and kind of with rooting in her story, and really having the van serving as like a henchman ultimately for the man driving that van.
Yeah. And it also didn't think of this while I was watching it, but I thought of it later of like the Halloween, like Michael Myers, like
Mhm.
you see the shape, but you never see the face. So it's not like a who is this, but rather what is that? And that kind of had that same kind of feel to the killer in this one.
Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter is obviously, a cinematic legend in horror, and what he did with Halloween was, I mean, really remarkable at the time. And being able to create a faceless entity that the mystery of who that entity was became more powerful than seeing a bunch of facial expressions of him while he's encountering his victims. And I think that there's something definitely to be taken from that, in terms of we don't always need to see the killer in that way. There's a reason why films like Terrifier and series exist in a zeitgeist way that um, is great for the audiences that want to see slasher, right? And then at the same time, and I enjoy that too, right? At the same time, there's also a different component and a different way of looking at things, where you play with the audience in the theater of the mind of what you don't see can sometimes be more frightening than what you do see.
Yeah, I think David Fincher did that in Zodiac too. Like when you see the Zodiac, it's only during parts where a surviving victim was able to describe them, but otherwise, like you don't see anything, or they don't even show the murders.
Yeah, and another piece to this, in all reality, is when Sharon and I are writing the script, and certainly in directing it, there was enough sort of circumstantial evidence out there uh, that this particular predator may, I don't feel necessarily may have been the only one responsible for some of the horrible deeds that sort of happened in that neck of the wood around that time period. There are potentially, other families that may have been involved, that were indicted in other cases. Um, so there was a purposefulness in not naming the killer, and showing their identity in this, and because of that.
And am I reading this correct? That they're on IMDb, I see two different actors playing the man or the
Well, we
killer.
actually, I mean, from a just from a production standpoint, I think we ultimately had three different actors who, at one point in time, embodied the man in some capacity. Uh, some of that was just logistics of when we filmed in Louisiana versus when we shot in Florida. But all of them, were. I thought they all did a great job in what they, how they carried the man.
I guess
And Blake,
that's
I was gonna
that
say Blake Doritas. Uh, I think, probably I leaned on his performance the most for a lot of the representational, aspects of the villain.
that's got to be one of the I guess function I guess of that. So like if yeah, if one of them, like usually if an actor is like sick or actor can't make it to set for whatever reason, it's, like, you're kind of SOL. But if one of the
Yeah.
characters you never see him, it's like, George, come in, we need to use your hands or whatever for a scene.
I, yeah, I think they actually did that, and there was a moment I think somebody had to do that with John Carpenter's The Shape. Certainly, I mean, in Jaws they had like three different, all different kinds of versions of the shark, of Bruce. And in this case, we had one van, but we did have a couple different, individuals playing the man for different reasons. Like someone we liked their hands a lot. I liked the physical build, and the hair and the shoulders, the broad shoulders. Um, and the physicality, and then, and then we had somebody who actually had to do all the stunts as the man when he gets, kicked by the horse and falls back, and we had to actually have a stunt man sort of play him. So we, had a few different puzzle pieces to incorporate to build out the man character.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just end with this. You got always like to get movie recommendations from people, and these would be movie recommendations that are kind of lesser seen movies. Like this movie's real good, and I wish more people would talk about it. What's one of those type of movies you would like to recommend?
Look, I'm a big there's I love a lot of Mexican filmmakers, and Inarritu, is a great one. And then, but okay, so off the top of my head, there are two films I can think of that I love. Uh, One, they're both older films, but a film called Amores Perros, that is to me just a brilliant film. Um, it's a thriller in its own right, and then also City of God, that takes place in the Brazilian, barrios of Rio. That is, a pretty incredible film, and I mean just some amazing filmmaking.
All right. Well, those are some great picks. Warren, thanks for joining me, and everyone can check out The Man in the White Van. I believe it's got a limited run. Hopefully a wider release because I really love this movie. It was creepy and just kind of hit me in the right spot when I was watching it. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, we're in 500 theaters nationwide now, which doesn't mean it's in every market, but still great for a small indie like ourselves. And then I think it's going to VOD the week of January 7th, so it should be out there for everybody then as well.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks again, Warren.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me.